Hey everyone, my name is Nathan.
Welcome to Hale.
A year ago, Nick and I discussed 10 movies that we wish were on the Criterion Collection. We decided to follow up that video with 10 new movies that we wish would be added to the Criterion Collection.
Nate, it's so great to be able to do this collab with you yet again, talking about 10 more movies that belong on the Criterion Collection. And I know that you're just very excited to be able to see this beautiful face of mine.
Now, the fun thing about this kind of video is everyone has their own picks for this category, so leave your comments below in the comment section and let us know what movies you would like to see get the Criterion treatment. Just like last year, this is a two-part video, and so the first part is here right now. You're watching the first part where we will be discussing our numbers 10 through 6, and then check out part 2 at Nick's channel, which will be linked in the description below, to see what our numbers 5 through 1 are. We'll just be going back and forth from our 10 to 6. Let's go ahead and get started.
My number 10 is going to be Bo Burnham's Inside. This just debuted on Netflix a few months ago. I know it's a stand-up comedy special of sorts, and they've never done anything like this on the Criterion Collection. But hear me out. They've done concerts. They've done a bunch of documentaries. I think that it's about time that we see some artistic comedy specials get the Criterion treatment. And Bo Burnham's Inside is a work of art. It's more than just a comedy special. It doesn't even feel like a comedy special. It's really mixed with songs about one's own thoughts as the COVID pandemic happened. And obviously, COVID is going to be a facet of history that people are going to learn forever. And Bo Burnham's Inside should be on the Criterion Collection because it is kind of a piece of that history. As we all kind of lost ourselves and lost our minds while being quarantined, this movie is the epitome of really just depression and feeling terrible about the world and the situations that we live in. So Bo Burnham's Inside, I'm all for it getting the Criterion treatment. Like, bring it on.
Number 10 for me goes to Mother, the 1996 film directed by Albert Brooks. Now, Albert Brooks already has a presence in the Criterion Collection. With Lost in America and Defending Your Life, I think Mother would be a great addition to this collection. I saw it for the first time actually this year, just a few months ago for my 24-hour movie marathon. It was the very first movie I watched, and I loved it. Even watching it at 11 o'clock at night. It was so enjoyable. Debbie Reynolds is absolutely adorable, and the relationship between her and Albert Brooks, it's really funny, to be honest, and this is a movie that Criterion needs to add just to add another heartwarming movie to their collection, because that's what Mother is. It's just an enjoyable movie, a good time, nothing more.
I'm going to talk a lot about horror films in this top 10 because I'm a man of horror and my channel is kind of geared more towards horror now. But my number 9 is going to have to go to The Babadook. I would have this higher on my list. It's one of my favorite horror films of the past decade. But the problem is I feel like this movie is becoming a bit too mainstream now. It's not as independent. And it already has some pretty good Blu-ray releases coming from IFC Midnight. But I would love for this movie to get the Criterion treatment. I think that Jennifer Kent, who directed this film, we don't really know much about her. She kind of hasn't really been on the scene since this movie, and I'd love to see a commentary track from her mixed with some supplements on the creature design and just the behind the scenes of this movie, because even though we do got some good Blu-ray releases, it feels too studio manufactured as opposed to really that care and that love that we can see from the Criterion Collection. I think there needs to be more horror films on the collection. I'm an advocate for that, and The Babadook is the perfect film for the Criterion Collection. I could just imagine the cover art. Ooh. Ooh.
Number 9 goes to The Last of Sheila, which was a movie that was recommended to me by my friend Carson Bates. And the reason I want this to be added to the Criterion Collection, for one, is it doesn't even have a Blu-ray release to begin with. It's a very underrated movie. I would have never even heard about it had Carson not told me. But if you're into those whodunit type movies where you're trying to find out who is behind the murder that happened, this is a movie that you will enjoy. It has an all-star cast, plenty of familiar names from back in the 70s. It's also very cleverly executed. When it finally explains to you the finale of the movie, what everything means, I actually had to rewind it and watch it one more time just to make sure I caught on to everything. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Rian Johnson was partially inspired by this movie for Knives Out. And so to everyone who praises Knives Out and does nothing else, watch this movie because you will most likely like it as well.
My number 8 is going to go to the recent Best Picture winner, Nomadland. This film was directed by Chloe Zhao, and the only reason why I'm putting this on this list is because we have seen the Criterion Collection dabble more into Best Pictures. Nomadland, it's not as mainstream. A lot of Oscar movies aren't. They have that indie feel to them, and Nomadland really does have that. It's also a beautifully significant film. It's immaculate. The color palette that is used is so gorgeous throughout the film, and it's really a film about kind of real life and just the feeling of not really belonging, but also belonging. It's got this really weird mix of different emotions. Frances McDormand is someone who everyone loves, and I would love to see a movie like this on the Criterion Collection. And it'd probably be the only reason why I'd want to watch this movie again is if it was on the Criterion Collection, just because it's not really a movie that I particularly was in love with, but I understand the hype and I understand why it's such an experience.
The next movie is one that I discovered on TV a few years ago. I was just channel surfing and I come across this movie that has a young Johnny Depp and a young Leonardo DiCaprio together. It's safe to say I was very interested in what the movie was. I'm talking about What's Eating Gilbert Grape. The movie is from the early 90s and it really doesn't have a central plot. It's mostly just about Gilbert Grape, this guy who lives in Dora, and nothing ever happens in this city. In fact, he's kind of depressed. He never full on says he's depressed, but it's really just his life one summer and the things that happen in that summer. You just kind of get lost in the movie with the characters. It also has my favorite performance of all time from Leonardo DiCaprio. His performance as Arnie is seriously just incredible. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a Leonardo DiCaprio fan and you haven't seen this movie, then are you really a Leonardo DiCaprio fan? In my opinion, this should have been his first Oscar win. It was his first nomination. It should have been his first win. I think he outperforms Tommy Lee Jones on The Fugitive in every way. I think that the Criterion Collection would do well with having this on their collection because they have many other movies that are just kind of like plotless movies that you get lost in when you're watching, and I feel like What's Eating Gilbert Grape would just match well with the collection.
My number 7 is going to go to Arsenic and Old Lace. This is a movie by Frank Capra. This is a black and white movie. I had to choose one black and white movie, and this is a really funny movie. I feel like this movie really doesn't have a platform at all. I don't feel like there's a Blu-ray release. I don't think that there's really any release for this film. And why not put it on the Criterion Collection? Is it his best film? No. You could definitely tell that the script is a little weak in this one, but it does have its fun, heartfelt moments. And when I watched this movie for the first time, I think about a year and a half ago, I was very impressed because the movie itself doesn't take itself seriously, and all the situations and hijinks that are in this movie are just really laugh out loud hilarious. And I just think that this movie would do well on the Criterion Collection.
When it comes to my number 7, I actually had a hard time choosing between two Peter Bogdanovich movies. It was between What's Up, Doc and Paper Moon. Both movies are amazing, and I would love both of them to get the Criterion treatment, but just so I'm not including more than one movie from the same director, I'm gonna go ahead and choose Paper Moon. I think that Paper Moon screams Criterion a little bit more with its black and white cinematography and the plot as well. As I was watching it, it was just one of those movies that I was kind of surprised it didn't already have a Criterion release. It feels exactly like one of those movies that I would blind buy from the sale, bring it home, watch it, and be like, yeah, that's another great Criterion movie. I'm not actually sure why this doesn't have a Criterion release. Criterion Collection has released one other Peter Bogdanovich movie, The Last Picture Show. Tatum O'Neal also became the youngest actress to ever win in a competing category at the Oscars. She won for Best Supporting Actress at the age of 10 years old, which is absolutely insane to me. She really does give an amazing performance in this movie. It would be interesting for the Paper Moon release to get some sort of supplement where they interview Tatum O'Neal today and just kind of do like a retrospective interview. From what I understand, I don't believe she acts anymore, and so I just wonder what it would be like to interview her and ask her a few questions about what it was like to win an Oscar at the age of 10. I mean, I'm sure she's been hammered with that question, but an interview exclusive to the Criterion release of Paper Moon would be very cool to me.
My number 6 is going to go to the Apple TV Plus animated film Wolfwalkers. This movie really impressed me. I love the art design in this film. The animation is beautiful. It's something different. And because it doesn't scream that Disney Pixar feel in terms of its animation and kind of goes more on the hand-drawn realm of animation, it has its own identity where Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is on the Criterion Collection, has its own identity. This movie is right there alongside it. And this is a great story. I really enjoyed this film. It was one of the better films of last year. And I think that Apple TV Plus should have a movie on Criterion. And if they do, it should be this movie. Because, man, I would love to see supplements for this movie. I would love to see what the cover would look like. And you could honestly do a kind of box set type of design like you did for Fantastic Mr. Fox for Wolfwalkers. And I think that this would bring in a lot more of a family crowd and maybe open up the Criterion Collection a little bit more for animated movie lovers, because more animated movies need to be on the collection.
Number 6 is The Children's Hour, a movie that I watched for my 25 movie challenge. Now, this is a movie that stars Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine. They are both two headmistresses of a girls' boarding school, and it's one of those movies that the character's reputation is completely ruined by a false rumor that is spread. Basically, a lie is created that these two teachers are in love, that they have a lesbian relationship, and because of that, well, I don't want to go into the movie too much, but that's the plot that we're working with. And the movie came out in the 60s. It was directed by William Wyler, who directed Ben-Hur, Roman Holiday, The Best Years of Our Lives, and to me, this seems like a movie that it's just screaming Criterion. You know, a movie that was released and it stood out for its time. It wasn't just another, you know, black and white movie. It was a movie that dealt with a very serious topic, especially for the 1960s. And it was magnificently directed. There are amazing performances in it as well. So for that and many other reasons that I won't go into, The Children's Hour definitely deserves a release on the Criterion Collection. That does it for the first part of this video. Now make sure to head over to Nick's channel right now to check out part 2 so that you can see both of our numbers 5 through 1 picks. I'll see you on Nick's channel.